Let's talk about race, gender, and actually who is voting for whom. When you look at the area of Clinton, older people, particularly 65 and above, white women, self-identified Democrats, voters making less than $50,000 a year with a high school education or less are voting along lines for Hillary Clinton, along with the majority of Hispanic voters. Now, in the area of Barack Obama, you've got younger people between the ages of 18 to 30, African-American voters, first-time voters, and voters making over $50,000 a year with a college education or more, independents, crossover Republican voters. Who has the edge here amongst the people?
That's a difficult question. Both have assembled a coalition that's roughly equal size, and that's why it's so close. However, Obama's been able to pull ahead in the popular vote and the delegate count because he's been able to win over the lower class, working class people, those making under 50,000, those without a college education. He's done that in Virginia, he's done that in Wisconsin, did that in Mississippi. I mean, he's able to really take parts of Clinton's coalition and add it to his own coalition, and that's why he's doing so well. But the key swing vote here is white men. Working class white men, or what we call the Reagan Democrats. The Democrats who, before Reagan came along, were voting Democratic. Mm-hmm. But once Reagan came along, he tied into their fears about affirmative action, about welfare, about the economy, and they voted for him. What Obama's doing is he's trying to win them back. And the results show with the Republican vote that he's doing that. He's getting the Republican votes to go for the Democrats now. So you now have what are called Obamakins. And that is, in fact, giving him an edge.
Let's come back in a few minutes and talk about the Republican Party. We've talked Democratic side. We'll talk the Republican side. John McCain, front and center as the Republican, looking to be the Republican nominee, all but a sure thing. We want you to stay with us because we're talking Republicans in the presidential election 2008 when we return right after this. Let them know. And Darren Jaime here with you, our Watching Perspectives. Our guest in the studio, Marriah Starr, political analyst, and also professor at Lehman College in the Bronx, New York. We just want to share a little bit with you. We're talking about the presidential race 2008, and in our first segment we were talking about Democrats and Republicans, the Democratic Party particularly, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and the long-standing controversy and where they particularly stand. I just want to get, before we move to the Republican side, I do want to bring this factor into the fact we talked about it earlier on his pastor, Jeremiah Wright's remarks that were made. A new CBS poll out finds that while most voters who have heard at least something about the controversial statements made by Barack Obama's longtime pastor view the Democratic candidate, the view of the Democratic candidate is unchanged, but a third say it has made them feel more negative about Obama. Your thoughts?
I'm not surprised because Wright's comments are rather incendiary, and most Americans would rather have Obama say either I support him or I don't. Mm-hmm. And when Obama said in his speech today, I do not support his views, but I do not disavow him, it's kind of hard to have it both ways. And so that's what they see him as, just another politician trying to have it both ways.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I think people need to understand too is, you know, while Jeremiah Wright has made these comments, he is known as a national prolific preacher. He is a person that has a long-standing history, particularly in the African-American community, as a powerful preacher, one who is community-minded, one who served the country, one who has a different perspective on life, on American society, but also has a real powerful view with religion and particularly spirituality and faith. So to hear somebody, you know, just make this blanket statement about his statements, on some sides, some people say Jeremiah Wright hasn't gotten the full disclosure neither as to who he really is, and he's just being revered as this pastor right now who's made some incendiary comments, but no one knows his whole story. But the Wright controversy will continue to go on for some time. I will need to move things along now and cross over to the Republican side. John McCain seems like a virtual lock for the Republican nomination. Is there anything that could prevent John McCain from getting this nomination?
Nothing. He's not just a virtual lock, he is a lock. He's got enough delegates now to clinch the nomination. And without Huckabee in the race, he no longer has any challenge to his nomination. One plausible scenario was that he would go to the convention and that he would not win the first ballot, and therefore some other candidate like Huckabee or Romney might win the second or third ballot. That's not going to happen, unless something really weird happens and there's a big scandal around McCain. But barring that, McCain's going to be the nominee.
Is it any kind of surprise that Huckabee, even though he is a Baptist minister, was not able to pull the evangelical voters?
He was able to pull some evangelical voters. But what you have here on the Republican side were Romney and Huckabee basically splitting the evangelicals. You had many evangelicals who would not vote for Romney because he's Mormon, but they also didn't want to vote for McCain because they saw him as betraying the evangelical cause, because he gave a speech in 2000 criticizing Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell as agents of intolerance. So Huckabee was trying to capture the evangelical spirit and use that as a wave to carry him through the campaign to the nomination. What we see here is that the evangelicals, and this is a key point, they're powerful, but they don't determine everything. They can stop someone from getting the nomination, but they can't make someone get it. So they could, for instance, stop McCain from getting the nomination in 2000, but they can't make Huckabee get the nomination now.
Right.
So they are limited in their power, but they're still very influential.
Do Republicans have an advantage now with McCain being the clear nominee and still you have Hillary and Barack on the other side? Does it give John McCain an advantage in terms of, you know, like in the basketball, you got playoffs, you got a team that's rested for a week, you know, you got another team fighting it out for the 7-game series. Does that kind of advantage help John McCain right now?
I like the sports metaphor. I know there are many Republicans and Democrats who think it does. I think it does not. See, here's the problem. No matter how much time John McCain has as the nominee of the Republicans, there are structural factors against him. The Iraq War is unpopular. 60 to 70% dislike it. He supports it. He supported the surge. So what you have here is a candidate who's outside of the mainstream of the most important political topic of the day. And then beyond that, the subprime loan crisis, the mortgage crisis. You have investment banks, you have Wall Street all collapsing. I mean, today Wall Street went up 400 points after the Federal Reserve cut the key prime rate. But other than that, you have lots of mortgages going down, you have lots of people losing their homes. That will make them vote Democratic because the Republicans have not done anything to salvage this crisis. They've not done anything to address the people who are hurting the most, the minorities who were suckered into predatory loans and therefore are losing their homes. So John McCain has a lot going against him, not for him.
Let's talk about those primary issues. We talked about the war in Iraq, and also George Bush has endorsed John McCain. Is that going to help him or hurt him?
It will hurt him. Whenever you have a president who has below 30% approval rating endorsing you, that is not a good sign. And this is one of the big problems that McCain faces. The economy is not on his side. The war in Iraq is not on his side. And now he has Bush, who is ready to go active to the American public, trying to get him to get support from the Republicans. What we see as a result is McCain has an uphill battle. Republicans know that. And that's why you see Republicans going for Obama, because they know that this is unlikely to be a Republican year. This is likely to be a Democratic year.
You hear people say that John McCain is the right man for the job. He can be the president of the United States, and everybody's been using this term from day one. If John McCain gets the presidential seat from day one, what can Americans expect to see?
If John McCain is president from day one, what you will see is an escalation of the war in Iraq, most likely. You will see a bailout of the financial firms that helped ruin the economy, because after all, John McCain, as many people may know, was part of the Keating Five. Back in 1989, after the savings and loan crisis collapsed, he helped to engineer the bailout of the savings and loan companies. So what you can expect is John McCain to literally hunt down the terrorists who attacked us on September 11th, 2001, go after them wherever they are, and stay in Iraq. He's pledged to be in Iraq for the next 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. I mean, he is really portraying Iraq as the fundamental basis of American foreign policy for the rest of our existence, pretty much. So what you will see is John McCain showing the American people that, hey, if you wanted Bush's third term, this is it.